On a dark and stormy October night, four friends, Lucas, Jenna, Derek, and Ivy, set off on a mission they'd never forget. Their destination was the forgotten village of Shadowmoor, hidden deep in the forest, a place that, legend said, appeared only on Halloween night. The rumors were eerie, the tales were chilling, but something drew them in, as if the village itself was calling out. Their car crept slowly through the dense, fog-drenched forest. Shadows twisted around them, and a thick, unnatural mist coiled between the trees. Ivy glanced outside and saw strange symbols carved into the bark, symbols that almost seemed to watch them. But despite the fear twisting in their stomachs, they kept going. And at last, after what felt like an eternity, Shadowmoor appeared before them, a small, eerie village, shrouded in mist as if frozen in time. The friends stepped out of the car, moving cautiously into the deserted village square. There was a silence, a heavy, eerie silence. They couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching. Shadows lingered at the edge of their flashlights, and the air felt thick, almost alive, waiting for them to make the first move. Drawn by an unseen force, each of them began to explore different corners of the village. Lucas, always the skeptic, wandered into an old tavern, empty and thick with dust. He scoffed at the stories, but as he moved through the room, he could have sworn he heard voices. Soft, whispering voices, calling his name. Jenna and Derek, drawn to the towering chapel, crept inside. The air was cold and the shadows long, as if the place was still hiding secrets from the past. Jenna found an old, brittle paper on one of the pews and read it aloud, a prayer asking for protection from the curse that darkens our doors each All Hallows Eve. And as her voice echoed through the empty chapel, a cold wind swept through, slamming the door shut behind them. Meanwhile, Ivy drifted over to the village well. She peered down, her flashlight catching only her own reflection, until the water twisted, her face warping into someone else's, a pale-faced woman with hollow eyes who seemed to mouth the words, "Help us." Ivy stumbled back, breathless with fear, feeling that the woman's eyes were still following her. One by one, they returned to the village square, each of them shaken by what they'd seen. Each of them realizing Shadowmoor was not as empty as it seemed. This village was haunted by the spirits of those trapped here, reliving the same Halloween night over and over, a Halloween that never ended. As they huddled together, fog swirled around them, thick and heavy, and suddenly Shadowmoor transformed. The empty streets flickered to life, and the village square filled with townsfolk. People danced and laughed, dressed in strange, old-fashioned costumes, their faces full of life, completely unaware of the fate that awaited them. It was Halloween again in Shadowmoor, but it was a night that would end in horror. One villager, her face pale and sad, whispered to them as she passed, "Leave before midnight. Once the clock strikes 12, you can never leave." Panic filled their hearts. They raced to the edge of the village, trying to escape through the woods, but the path had vanished, replaced by an endless wall of mist. They were trapped, just like the villagers before them. Desperate, Jenna remembered the prayer from the chapel. Maybe it was their only chance. Together they returned to the chapel, hoping against hope that it could break the curse. Inside, they recited the prayer, their voices shaky but determined. Shadows gathered around them, twisting into ghostly faces of the trapped villagers who joined in, chanting in a haunting chorus. And then the dark specter appeared. It was a tall, that shadowy figure with hollow eyes, the one who had cursed Shadowmoor centuries ago. His laughter filled the chapel, deep and chilling, as if he could taste their fear. But in a moment of courage, Derek snatched a silver cross from the chapel wall, holding it high. The specter recoiled, his shadows twisting in agony, and with a final bone-chilling scream, the specter was gone. His grip over the village shattered, and the souls of the villagers, freed at last, dissolved into light, vanishing like whispers into the dawn. As the sun's first rays broke over the horizon, the friends stumbled back to their car, exhausted but alive. They had survived Shadowmoor's curse. Yet as they drove away, Ivy's phone buzzed. She opened it to see her recordings from the night. In the video, she saw the four of them standing in the village square, but behind them, Shadowmoor still flickered, as if the curse lingered on, waiting for the next curious souls to seek it out.